there was a teacher in Indiana that I studied with named Nelly Shkolnikova, who was one of the first women in the Soviet Union to have a solo career, and defected from the Soviet Union in the 80s. And she treated her students like her children because she never had children of her own. I mean, she would house them
Mm.
and feed them and help
Wow.
them, you know. She helped my wife buy a bike to get around Bloomington,
Wow.
Indiana. And she treats them like she's their mother, and gets involved in their lives almost too much, and there's a lot of that kind of relationship, student teacher relationship in other cultures. In Russia, for sure. I know in India, when you study with a teacher, you live at their house. There's even a kind of an induction ceremony.
Really?
When you
Wow.
Yeah, it's this kind of a sacred. It's kind of like the teacher welcomes you into their family. So there's different levels. I think in the United States, in some cases, it's a lot more detached and professional,
Yeah.
um, unless you find someone you really connect with that has such a huge influence in your life.
Yeah.
So check this out. So like, for a while now, we've had synths, we've had guitar synths, we've had MIDI, we've had, keyboards taking on the role of string sections, or,
Yeah.
you could play a flute, make a guitar sound like a flute, or a trombone,
Yeah.
or anything. And sometimes, you're listening to a track, and you don't even know what instrument is playing. It's some weird synth sound that was created on the
Yes.
spot. So the definitions of instruments are blurred now. Um,
Mm.
a guitar doesn't always sound like a guitar. A piano doesn't always sound like a piano. Same with the violin. Whoever made the rules that the violin has to have four strings, and why can't a violin play through a distortion pedal, or through a cool synth pedal and sound like a Fender Rhodes, or a Hammond B3, or anything? I
Yeah.
mean, the whole lot, people kind of cling to these definitions of instruments, and it's kind of an arbitrary thing at this point. you know
Right.
I think the rules are meant to be broken. It's funny to me because violin is so associated with classical music, but it's been, jazz has been played on the violin as long as jazz has been around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Eh, um, and there's a deep fiddling tradition tracing back hundreds of years, throughout Europe and the Middle East. Um, Celtic fiddle, Irish fiddle, you know, all the music in the American traditions. Violin is not a horn. I mean, a violin is everything. It's a
Right.
violin. It's a violin. It's a horn, but it's also a rhythm guitar. It's a keyboard, and it's a
Mm.
percussive instrument. It could function as a member of the rhythm section, and a lot of people don't get that. They don't understand it. They almost feel territorial about it, and it's funny because if I was in a band, let's say I'm playing in a wedding band, which I played in a lot of wedding bands when I got to New York and was freelancing, and I had to kind of find my place because there was a lot of music we played that had no violin in it.
Mhm.
So sometimes I would pretend I'm a string section, and I would put on the chorus pedal, and I would, create string lines. If there were string lines to a song that already existed, I would play those. Like "I Will Survive" has an iconic string part, that everyone knows. But if it's something that didn't exist, I would kind of arrange it on the spot and make it sound like a string section. If it didn't call for that, I would put on a wah pedal and play like funky, choppy kind of rhythm guitar stuff. And the funny thing is, some band leaders loved it and some didn't. And I'm thinking to myself, if I was another guitar in the band, they wouldn't have any issue with this. But because I play the violin, and because I know how to groove, it's just people have this really frozen idea of what a violin is supposed to do in the band and when it's not.
Yeah.
And part of that is because sometimes they go through a lot of bad to mediocre string players that don't know what they're doing, don't know how to tastefully contribute to the music. But it's like you're constantly trying to prove yourself. So yeah, sometimes I'll play rhythm guitar on the violin, and I think it's a totally viable thing if it contributes to the music. That's the key. Sometimes I'll just chop and pretend I'm like a tambourine or a maraca, or you know a, a, a percussion instrument, and that works too. So um, the role of the instrument can change a lot. It's not just an instrument that plays pretty lines or doubles the horn parts. And I think a lot of people kind of think inside that box too much, and you're constantly trying to open their minds, you know. So good luck. As a violinist, you're going to have to encounter a lot of that, especially if you're playing in a rock band or a funk band or even a jazz band, you know.